Hey everybody, I want to thank you for checking out this climbing noise video where I got the chance to sit down with Bryce Viola. Bryce is a Northeast legend and has put up some of the most incredible and least repeated lines in the Northeast. We got to talk about all of his love for creative bouldering styles and his unique superpowers in climbing. We got to talk about the Northeast comp scene and kind of the progression of bouldering over the last years that he and I have been climbing. I'm very glad to say that we came up together out of the same gym and I consider him a good friend. So please enjoy this conversation with Bryce and be sure to subscribe and let me know in the comments who you'd like me to talk to next time. Enjoy. Dude, thank you so much for being here. Been a long time fan. Very proud to consider you a friend. I would love to start kind of at the beginning. My idea of your reputation is that you are most people's favorite climber's favorite climber. All the podcasts, especially like Test Piece or Nugget, you come up as everybody's favorite climbing partner on all those. So for more context for those people, can you start us back at the very early days at the cliffs at Valhalla?
Yeah, well, so we go back to the same gym, Cliffs Valhalla. I started, I think it was either Boy Scouts or birthday party or something there, and back when the gym was just opened. I loved it, and then I started going back with my dad. I think for a while we were sneaking in and not paying, and then eventually I was becoming enough of a regular face that I couldn't do that anymore. And then yeah, but I was just instantly hooked. It kind of appealed to weird gamer puzzle brain that I had. And then joined the climbing team where eventually I'll meet you. And yeah, just hooked. Had good coaches from the get-go, good people. It was a good community. Kind of nurtured me into who I am for sure.
My earliest memory is always the striped shirt, and by the time I started climbing in 2009, you were already pretty much strongest guy around, at least in Valhalla. But the thing that I remember the most is at what at the time was called Carabiners and is now Rock Climb Fairfield. Your butterfly stretch, your hip flexibility, you went full butterfly and just laid face down on the pad, and it blew my mind. You've always had insanely flexible hips.
Yeah, there's no I didn't stretch or anything. I was just kind of had that from the get-go. I was talking about this yesterday because I went into a butterfly and no longer was just straight to ground. I was like, uh-oh, I gotta start stretching again.
Dude. Oh no. Early on, I remember you being more excited about climbing outside than for competition. Was that the case kind of starting out? Do you remember your first outdoor experiences?
Yeah, it was definitely Gunks and Ice Pond were kind of the places to go. I loved Ice Pond. Ice Pond was kind of our local bouldering area, and it's got this amazing, nice rock, really high quality. Even to this day, I love going there. And yeah, I was always just hooked by the outdoor climbing. I think it was just so different. Loved being outside. Everything that I liked about figuring out why climbing moves worked was just amplified when you go outside, and all the details have become way more intimate. So I think that kind of always hooked me. I loved competing, and I still love competing. It's just fun. It's a good session. Good people always. Yeah, I'm not motivated to beat the other climbers in the field or whatever. I'm just there to have a good time.
Motivated enough to try to sabotage an ISO. That is one of the best podcast sound bites I've ever heard. You talking about trying to get people to tire themselves out in ISO is rad. The thing that I want to kind of dial into is the level of creativity that you bring to finding new lines or even finding your own beta on boulders, finding what we all call Bryce beta most of the time, things that only really Bryce is capable of. The first thing that comes to mind is the heel hook on Diesel. For people at home, Diesel is one of the king lines at Ice Pond. Excellent boulder that I will go to my grave saying is V11, even though everybody takes 10 on it.
I took it. Good.
My current feeling on grading is that Instagram has ruined consensus grading because nobody ever wants to take a higher number. I think everybody wants to take the number that makes them seem the coolest and most nonchalant and everything is easy, and nobody will actually admit that Diesel is so hard.
Yeah, I think consensus grading overall just has a flaw in that a lot of people are hesitant to voice their actual personal opinion, or they just don't know. That's totally fair. because it's confusing. But then if you're always just like, oh, I'll just take the consensus grade, you're like adding to that consensus and inflating it, but you're not actually like giving an opinion. So especially nowadays, we got like kids so strong coming out to the Rock, and they don't know what the grade is because they don't have the experience, but they're so damn strong that they can send it anyways. And so I think it's like inflating via consensus, and so hard to stretch away from that.
No, and to be fair, I think that most people would say that about you, uh, especially early on. I think the general consensus is that Bryce is ruining the consensus because he doesn't know how strong he is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's fair.
I'm going to start off with accusation. It's like I
Yeah.
think
Oh yeah.
for a long time the rumor mill maybe your reputation has been that Bryce is the person that is stiffening the Northeast grades, which I am a big fan of gatekeeping the ice pond. I think that stiff grades are nice, but when people aren't necessarily when people aren't willing to give their actual opinion on a grade, I think it lends itself to something like Diesel that is definitely harder than V10, getting a grade of V10 and people feeling like they're weaker than they might actually be. I'm thinking back to when you put up Cosa Nostra, like one of the first really really awesome FAs. Went out and spotted you a couple times on that one back in the day. That was so cool. But you called that one V12, and I'm curious now, having a much bigger pyramid under your belt, having climbed harder, easier. Is there anything about that climb that you would want to like refine the grade on?
That one, I stand by that. Honestly, I think it's still lighter for 12. Yeah, I think I've just kind of I've always like been. I mean, I'm a bit of I like to troll and stuff too, but mostly I'm just like giving my actual honest opinion. I think my honest opinion might be a bit swayed by like my first few climbing trips. I went to like Bishop and Squamish, and these places are like I've learned kind of notoriously difficult. And so I think I've kind of framed my version of each grade as like maybe the hardest version of that grade, or like the most demanding technical version of that grade. Yes, it maybe has made me into a bit of a sandbagger, but mostly I'm just giving my honest opinion. Sometimes it's up. Like Diesel, I took 11. That was my first 11, I think.
I don't think that's up for what it's worth. I think I think that thing has gotten a bit. What's the opposite of inflated? Yeah, it has gotten a bit deflated. Let's touch on that Squamish trip. I want to go back to one of the lost climbing films of all time, the Bus Boys Summer. Can you can you tell people my memory is that this was the most ultra psych climbing trip of all time, that like maybe because I was a couple years younger than you guys and really looked up to you guys as climbers, but tell people what the Bus Boys Summer was.
Yeah, that's a good shout. Yeah, it was like my friends Tom and Mark. We would spend like 30-hour days at the gym basically all summer together. We were good friends, and Tom had called us one time just on a whim, and he was like, I'm about to buy this bus off Craigslist. If I buy it, will you guys go on a road trip with me? And we were like, okay, yeah, let's rip it. And so it was really just kind of happened on a dime. But yeah, we had this bus. We like kind of kitted it out to our standards at least. So maybe not to the standards of today. We had a super bed in the back where we just all slept in one giant bed. And we just ripped. We went to Squamish was kind of our first stop. We drove up from. We ended up staying like a month longer than we wanted to because it was just so fun. And then yeah, we drove around to like Washington, Leavenworth, Joe's Valley, Red Rocks, Bishop, and ended up being like about 6 months traveling around, romping, and just having a really good time.
One of the notable ascents of that trip, I believe you did the egg in Squamish.
So I had already been.
Was
I
that
had
that
done
trip?
a trip to Squamish the year before with my friend Nate, who grew up in Washington, so he kind of knew his way around. And that trip, I projected the egg and fat slab, which is like a V5 slab. And I did the egg, and I did not do fat slab until the following year. But amazing climbs, yeah.
On the Bus Boys Summer, were there any kind of notable ascents that stand out to you from that time?
Tons of like great moments and stuff. I met my friend Daniel Fong that trip. We like kind of overlapped.
Oh.
He was also doing a road trip with 3 friends, or 2 of his friends. So there's like 2 groups of 3 of us, and we kind of like had similar levels and stuff. So it was a really good pairing for each group. So we climbed a lot together. We had like really fun days in Joe's Valley, like eating endless donuts in the morning and then going romping. Notable sense. I don't know. I remember like that climb Turbulence in Leavenworth was like a really beautiful one. That was kind of the problem of the week that week.
The thing that stands out to me as a kind of a through line through your climbing, creativity and specifically creative problem solving, but also creativity in the ways that you have fun when you're on these trips. So I think people will know from I think it was when you were on the Nugget podcast, just you were like running around Rocklands dynoing in the rain in your underwear, right? Like the things like that, or like even going back to the 2010 Valhalla days, you were always trying to find like the no hands traverse on our upstairs walls. You and Tom and Mark getting really psyched on the game Quap for a minute, for people who remember that one. The like QWOP and the guy running. It seems like the way that you approach some boulders seems like the same way that you approach like that silly Flash game, right? It seems like you are looking for the most creative way to get something done, and that is the thing that you're finding joy in. Is that like, does that track?
I mean, definitely having fun and being creative like kind of go hand in hand for me. But I also think like in general, people just need to have a little more fun with it all. It really like helps too. Like any sort of emotional baggage that you're carrying when you're trying to send your project and stuff will like weigh you down. Just have a bit more fun, talk some more shit, and make up some more games and stuff. You'll have a better time out there. But I think like being creative for me, I kind of always climbed a lot by myself. I would do live solo sessions outside, and I think I'm just like fairly creative with that beta stuff in general. But climbing by myself, I think really helped amplify it, because I just kind of like messed around and tried things, and then kind of figured out like how to play into my strengths, which tends to be very strange things because I have like really flexible hip and ankle turnout, so I do these weird heel hooks over my head and stuff. But it works for me, so I just run with it. So
prepared podcaster over here. What's the boulder that you did, I believe in Connecticut, that everybody threw up about collectively because it was like massive Gaston in the roof behind your head?
Oh, wax wings, yeah.
Cosa Nostra, I vividly remember your heel being above your head and you pulling on it like it was an additional arm. Yeah. And then the other memories that stand out to me is trying to like take a new set and take the V4 in the new set and double clutch clap behind the back catch like the next hold. Like that's the kind of like fun and games that I expect from a Bryce session. Part of that creativity, I think, is also a lot of the boulders that you've kind of contributed that aren't pure first ascents. You've contributed a lot of low starts to climbs that are very seldomly repeated. The sit start to the official at Ice Pond, if we're gonna stick with our roots, that thing is really nasty. Or the sit start to yikes at the Gunks, yowza. Like that thing is like such a strange sequence that very few people would think to pull on in that way. My image of you coming up with that is you did it to like as a joke to troll somebody, to be like, no, trust me, like it goes from down here.
Well, okay, that one specifically, you're painting me this reputation of a low start enthusiast, which I mean, for a local at any local area, I think kind of anything goes for me. I think if I'm traveling somewhere, I'll maybe less enthused to start digging out bottom moves. Yeah, Yowza. That one actually like looks like it would climb like this incredible through the overhang, and I think it still could. And then as I was like trying to figure it out, I realized like you could kind of like feet out this way, and then like it started to work, even though I was like coming like a centimeter off the ground. I was like, well, that's kind of a shame that it's going this way, but this is how it's going for me. So let's run with it.
And that's so rad. The idea of finding the sequence that works and knowing that it's not necessarily the prettiest climbing, just such a lovely vibe to be in. Changing gears a little bit, we've talked about some of your outdoor creativity. You've been competing for a long time. You've been a setter for a long time. You took kind of an extended break from climbing, and when you came back, something you said to me that stood out is that 1 to 2 years that you were on a hiatus. Bryce is a slab prodigy. That's always been true. Death, taxes, and Bryce on slab. 3 certainties in life. A new wave of competition climbing and coordination. Does that excite your creativity the same way?
I think so. Yeah, I think it's fairly cool. I'm not that good at it. That was like I said, like definitely. I think kind of the old school slab comp stuff that you'd see, like I think Dark Horse is kind of what you can point to. That's starting to see this like coordination movement, right? At least that I saw in person. I was like kind of just naturally good at it. I think probably from all the shenanigans that I just do when I'm climbing at the gym or outside. So I was like, I could kind of make do with what I just kind of naturally had. Never had to like work at it and do okay. Nowadays, it's like you got to work at this stuff. You got to be real good, dialed in, if you want to like kind of stay at the level where you need to be. But I think it's cool. It's definitely creative. The coordination stuff, like, I mean, if you push it really far, it's kind of, I don't know if you're always seeing like the best athletes winning, because sometimes it's really just to do it in 4 minutes it's a bit of like a gamble. Like it's just luck, it feels. I mean, climbing is all coordination. Like even when you're just outdoors, unless you're just Aiden Roberts and you can like lock off every move, like you're coordinating your hands and your hips, like pretty much every movement, even if it's not this like crazy showy coordination. So I think it's like producing amazing athletes. I'm okay with seeing it around. I'd love to see Crimps make a comeback in the comps, but
it's been very interesting watching new styles of movement emerge and new patterns and trends, but then just like everything, the new thing becomes the overdone thing. So an example I use all the time is when we first saw the like reach and catch a toe hook at the same time, blew everybody's mind, and everybody was rushing to catch up and try to figure out how to do it. Every setter set 12 of them, and then the next thing came along and it was a paddle, and then we had the 360 the on slab, like the turn around and face away from the wall and then turn back around. Then we had more recently we had the Lachey, or the step up dyno.
The Lachey is terrible. I hate it.
Hate the Lachey.
Yeah, I hate it. The thing I hate the most about it is this, like, especially if it's a 4-point start where you got to like tap your feet to your hands and then you got to generate a swing. It's like, it's awkward to watch, awkward to climb, it takes time. It's like, it's not fun to watch and way overdone. And it's like, you really, I don't know. It's a complicated movement, but like, it's so different from normal rock climbing. Yeah. For some reason, like downward dynos is not allowed, but like the shaying downward is totally that plays, I guess.
Yeah, it makes no sense to me. Is there a trend that has been around, let's say in the last 3 to 4 years that you've really enjoyed, or extrapolating, is there something from back in the day you wish would make a comeback?
I like the 360 slab. That's pretty fun. I mean, it's probably gets overdone as everything does in trends and stuff, but pretty fun. It feels nice when you're climbing on it. Things to make a comeback. I mean, just crimps in general. I think it's like, I kind of like this Olympic format of like, there are these 4 specific styles. I would just do away with, and I think I'm stealing this from the Careless Talk, Sam. This idea of like, do away with the electric boulder format. So the way the Olympics does it, they have like a power boulder, a slab boulder, or maybe it's called balance, I don't know, coordination boulder, and then electric, which is just like another word for coordination. They should just do away with that one, and they should have 2 power boulders, one of them being crimps, one of them being not crimps. Every round should have that. And then you could have stats for athletes like, oh, Adam Shahar, 95% tops on the crimp power boulder.
Yeah, that would bode well for climber trading cards to have those specific stats, you know. Um,
Yep. Yeah, you get a
oh
trading
man, a
card for
Bryce
them.
Viola rookie card would be
Plus, it's
sick.
just like, yeah, it's nicer to have like kind of storylines with the athletes like that.
Agreed. Yeah,
That way.
it raises a good point. I think people really enjoy seeing a climber's superpower. The everybody likes watching Tomoa do a crazy coordination quadruple paddle insanity, but they don't like watching somebody really struggle on that move. They might really want to watch Jane Kim sport climbing because it's like this beautiful thing to behold how like flawless her execution is. The having a chance for more athletes to stand out on different styles is a good thing from a spectator perspective. So then that ties in nicely to you and I are both pretty steeped in the Northeast comp scene. Something we've talked about a bunch is the psych that goes into comps has maybe taken a bit of a step back. I feel like there used to be this incredible comp scene where every weekend there's like this banging event, everybody turns out, and now it feels like there's circuit of comps for people that are trying to be in finals, and then there's very laid back citizens comps, and there doesn't seem to be that same kind of melding. I'm curious, what are the for you, what are the things that you think are really important in a local competition that make it like worth going to? What are the things you want the organizers to make sure that are there?
I think it's just like a fun event. Like it's not, you can take it seriously, but it doesn't need to be this super serious thing that people are like so stressed while they're there, and like make it more of a party, because I think that's kind of what it used to be for sure. And the best comps, I mean, the only ones I really go to now are kind of like these kind of big events that the community really comes out for. Yeah, maybe different formats and stuff too. I really like the like everyone's got to climb on everything format, where you're like 30 boulders or something and you got to do all of them.
Yeah, there's a competition that I did here in Amsterdam back in the fall. It was I think 15 or 20 boulders, and everybody gets to try them. There's 1,000 points up for grabs on each boulder, and the score that each person gets is 1,000 divided by how many people do it. So if 10 people do that boulder, it's only worth 100 points. But if you're the only person to do it, you get those extra, like that huge score bump. Something like that is very fun, but it does create some long lines, especially on the lower numbers. But yeah, something like that where points are determined by completion rate really encourages people to get out of their comfort zone as well.
And the 4+, you need 4+ in finals.
Got to have 4+ in
Plus
finals.
the 4 minutes, yeah.
Yeah, watching somebody drop off the wall or like walking away when there's 30 seconds left is such a letdown as a viewer. For beta breakers and Basim, having stricter timelines might be nicer, but that 4+, the story of it, like from the spectator's perspective, it's so much better to watch that sudden death moment.
I'll trade the Olympics for bringing 4+ back.
Would you prefer a World Cups to have 4+ again?
Yeah.
There's pretty classic footage of, I'm gonna say it was a World Cup in like 2013, of somebody was like on the wall recovering for like 4 minutes or something, like an entire additional cycle.
Yeah, maybe you need a rule for like stuff like that where you're not like moving between point holds or whatever.
Like maybe there's a shot clock on it. You have, let's say, like 10 seconds between moves kind of thing.
Yeah, or longer, but like, yeah, something you can figure something.
What let's catch us up with the life of Bryce these days. What are the things you're super excited about right now?
I've got this like endless list of projects in Connecticut that all are just crazy hard and have been challenging me for like almost a decade, or some of them over a decade. I'm making progress, so that's what I'm gonna go try today. Those projects, and yeah, still finding new stuff around. The rock is amazing out here. Not like these big zones, which I think is cool. You gotta just kind of embed yourself with the locals, and that's cool.
Yeah, that's something that I've always appreciated about some of the areas in the Northeast, like greater than in Mount Kisco. A lot of people's first V10 that might have the opposite treatment of diesel. The might be a bit soft for 10, but that's my consensus. Still taking 10. Something like that where there isn't necessarily encouraged climbing access there. There isn't a ton. There's a good amount of rock over there, but there's not as many high quality lines as Greater Than right there, or the Forge where Super Tanker is. Those kinds of things, you really need to know somebody to be able to get there. You need somebody that's going to show you, or like they'll give you the pin, but they also need to tell you where to park and turn at there's an old like tractor wheel that you need to turn at. If you go past the tractor wheel, you are gonna get lost. Things like that I think are really important in keeping the tradition of respect for a climbing area in the local scene. With the Ice Pond guidebook, my mission is to make sure that people still respect Ice Pond and pick up trash. And my bumper sticker is gatekeep the Ice Pond. I want that place to stay clean and pristine and keep the howl nice and polished.
Yeah, I think it's part of the Northeast. It's kind of a necessary part, and it's not like, oh, you're not cool enough to like climb on this project or on these boulders kind of vibe. It's definitely just born out of necessity, because so much of the climbing and boulders out here there's just so much private land in general that we don't have these big sweeping parks and areas where you can just go and do whatever outdoor activities you want. But if you are respectful and you're parking in good spots, you're hiking in on a trail, if you're not bothering anyone, you can kind of keep areas clean and stay respectful. It can kind of just keep going, but it just means you can't just open the floodgates and let everyone in, kind of thing. But I think it creates like a stronger community of.
Agreed, man. Making sure that the floodgates are like slowly turned open. We don't want an actual flood. Do you have any projects right now that you're psyched on that are let's say more well known to people?
Yeah, not too many. I've definitely, and more so in recent years, like been just really into like these things that are maybe possible. That like you're really walking that line of like, does it go or does it not go? And it's that I think I've always been kind of attracted to that, but then also I felt like I had to like kind of pay my dues and like do climbs. And at this point, I don't really care about doing that so much anymore, and so I'm just like going for it with these things. I think it's really nice to also like go and climb things that are done. It's probably healthier that way, but if I only get so many days outside, I'm just chasing what I want to do, which is just like beat my head against the wall on these moves that like maybe go, or try the 100th different beta for it and see if maybe that feels a little bit better.
We've talked about some of the things that you were maybe a bit more gifted with, like your hip mobility. Are there specific things that you felt like you've had to really work for to improve in your climbing?
Good question. I've definitely worked for things with like a specific goal in mind, like just training like wide shoulder positions before I went to Rocklands and stuff like that, where I like had a reason that was like kind of motivating me to train. I've never been like much of a hardcore watching the numbers and training and like kind of vibe. Yeah, I don't know. I think kind of the biggest jump for me was just like figuring out how to use my superpowers and like kind of leaning into that. I do remember having to like practice my breath while climbing and like how to relax, because I think everyone has like a punting phase, but I was like, oh, I'm the worst punter in the world kind of phase. And then I worked on like my breathing while I'm on the wall and like how to kind of calm myself down and like how to like crack a joke or wipe my shoe on my pants to like kind of relax and break that nervous spell that you get into when you're like on a climb. And that helped me a lot, and I stopped kind of punting as much.
Nice. Love that. I do remember your punting phase, but I remember the joke of it more than the actual like punting that took place, if any.
There were some good ones. There were some good puns for sure.
There's a classic YouTube video of you punting in Evan race fashion. That was something from your time up north. I don't even know where that climb is.
Yeah, it's in the Niagara Glen, which I went to school in Rochester for a year before I dropped out. And the closest climbing is in Toronto, or not Toronto, but in Niagara, like on the Canadian side. So it's kind of fun. You got to like do the border crossing, and it's like this limestone crag, so super polished and like different style, but really pretty fun place. I kind of have fond memories of it.
Yeah, I remember when you were away in college for that year, you came back and just like appeared out of the woods at Ice Pond, the snow on the ground, and you're like, dude, I think the sit start to the official goes, and you just like pulled on out of nowhere. It was just a fun little nostalgic trip for me. On the topic of kind of that old school vibe, we talked a little bit about the style of climbing that I think across the board, most people want to see that style of climbing show back up in competitions. But is there anything about I'm going to say like the old school culture of climbing and training and climbing outside, whatever, that you feel like has kind of been lost as the sport has grown, or something that you miss about the good old days?
Yeah, I got two things. I want more shit talking back, and then more like weird video skits that like louder than 11 used to do those, like the pogo, the art of pogo or whatever. Those were great. Yeah.
Who's your Mount Rushmore of climbing shit talkers?
Oh, climbing shit talkers. It might just be all of the Gunks people,
The Gunk Screw is pretty heinous.
for better or for worse. Yeah, they had their time of shit talking for sure.
Austin Hoyt takes shit talking really well.
He takes it really well. Yeah, I definitely feel it out to him as much as I can.
And it seems like it excites him. It seems like he's really stoked to be getting it with both barrels. It's great. But yeah, I agree. I think as somebody who's also involved in like the youth competitive scene so heavily, there's definitely an art to shit talking that is fun, and everybody is kind of staying motivated with it, and it's like fun challenge amongst people, and then it can very quickly turn into not fun for people. So if you are trying to bring back shit talking, know your audience. If you're an adult in the gym, don't shit talk the 12-year-olds the same way you wouldn't talk to 12-year-olds on a playground. Don't talk to them in the climbing gym. You don't need to tell them how amazing they are, and you don't need to tell them how they're only strong because they're tiny. At the core of that, it is the kind of the lightheartedness and playfulness and creativity. For you, Tom and Mark back in the day, just spending open to close in the gym, bouldering and sport climbing, just going hard and constantly pushing each other and seeing who could take down the climb first. It was always you, but sometimes they had a shot. That to me is something that I really miss. There's so many people with their headphones in, head down training, and I love that. And I think there's a ton of room for that, and is a big reason why the sport has been able to grow so much. But also, Adam Shahar and Austin Hoyt are very open about the ways that they like get on each other and are kind of like friendly, competitive.
Yeah, I think the core of it is just like staying playful with it all, because we are just playing at the end of the day.
It's climbing. It really is so much fun, and it just is not that serious. For video skits, one of my all time favorites is Jason Kale, Year of the Renegade. Find that one on YouTube. Do you have any classic favorites that you want to point people towards?
Oh man, so many classics. There's a YouTube video that you should have seen the other guy, this Northeast character, and he's trying this wall, and it's got this weird landing. He's like practicing his falls by like falling on milk crates in the gym. It's great. You'd love that one. Right?
Okay, I can't wait to see that one. My trend prediction 2025 moving forward, I think sport climbing is about to make a comeback in a big way. I think people are going to get really psyched on sport climbing soon. We've seen this massive explosion in the top end of bouldering, and I think the top end of sport climbing has still been coming up, but like the ceiling has been going up, but the floor hasn't come up much. I think we're about to see a lot more people climb 514 in their first year of climbing than previously. Do you have any sport climbing goals, or is Connecticut boulders still taking priority?
It'd be cool to do some sport climbing. It's just always been like high on the list, but not high enough on the list to make the cut. But it'd be fun. I'd be bad at it, which would be fun.
I don't know if this is technically sport climbing, but you did send the fly back in the day. Yeah. So who cares? You already sport climbed, accomplished. Feeling pretty psyched on a Rumney season this spring. So hopefully I can convince you to make the trip up. Anything people, I know we can find you on Instagram. It's Bryce V123, and we'll link that down in the description. Anything else that you'd like to plug or point people towards or anything like that?
Nah.
I didn't think so, but always got to ask. Dude, thank you so much for coming and doing this. Would love to have another chat and kind of get more into the details of some climbing stuff. A lot of climbing media is based on kind of entry level stuff, and I would love to get more into the brain of Bryce, because I think it's one of one in there. Shout out climbingnoise.com. Everybody go find all of your local competitions, and we have a ton of media and articles and videos and podcasts and things rolling out soon. If you're interested in training, I also believe in the playful side of climbing, but I do coach people for a living. So Tyler G Coaching on Instagram or Tyler G Coaching at Gmail. Hit me up, and subscribe to the Beta Breakers channel. Make sure that you tune in for all of the upcoming live streams of comps. Maybe you'll see Bryce in the finals again soon. I think that's it. Dude, thank you so much. We'll catch you on the next one. Thanks so much for tuning in for my conversation with Bryce. I had a really great time talking to him. He's somebody I've known for a long time, and I'm happy to consider a friend. So it's great to be able to share a side of his personality that I think I get to see more often than the rest of the internet might. If you've made it this far, make sure to subscribe. Hit me up on Instagram, Tyler G Coaching, for any coaching needs, or if you have a guest request or you'd like to come on the show. And feel free to email me, tylergcoaching at Gmail. And tune in next time where I'm going to be talking to Colin Squire. Very fun conversation with him, as always. Thanks very much. I was so.
Oh, I was so bummed not to do that one, man. I was the only one who actually knew those holds.
Vinny was like stressing about it. He was like, everybody's gonna think it's a shit boulder. Like, and I think it was everybody's favorite.
I was worried the frog at the finish hold was gonna break because I remember that hold. It's like it's a fragile hold. Nah.